This is Tracy Broussard with RoadDawg Online and Rich Redmond, currently touring with Jason Aldean. Now, you've accomplished quite a bit in your career, but let's start in the beginning. Like, what made you pick up the sticks? That's like the question.
I was just kind of a restless, type A young dude. I was like beating on everything, and my dad was like, "Do you want to play the drums?" I ruined the joke. Cut.
Oh.
They said, "Do you want to play a musical instrument?" I said, "No, I want to play the drums." I was 8 years old. It was in Milford, Connecticut, and my dad took me to the Milford Percussion and Guitar Workshop, and I got lessons with this dude named Jack Berge, and he got me this little blue sparkle snare drum and with one of those suction pads, the Gladstone pads.
Yeah.
Taught me how to hold my sticks, read the rudiments, the whole deal, and then I was off to the races. We added a kick drum, we added a little cracked cymbal. I pretended to be Peter Criss, Everybody wants to be a rock star, right? So I did that, but that was really cool because it gave me the basis to, like, when I got in the 5th grade band, 6th grade band, I was way ahead of everybody else because I could read. I could read the music, and I knew, like, my rudiments and everything. So it was like I was way ahead of the pack, and then it kind of inspired me. And really, I'm just a product of the great music education programs in Texas. Great state for music education because football is huge. So they sink all the money into it, it trickles down, And so I was, all the time I was in, all city band and jazz band and symphonic band and orchestra, and then I was playing in my own outside group, so whenever I get my hands on.
So did you move from Connecticut to Texas?
Spent the first 11 years of my life in Connecticut, and then I moved to Texas, El Paso, Texas, because my dad is a merchandise accountant, and he would go across the border every day to Juarez, and they would, the little ladies would be sewing, Victoria's Secret's underwear and stuff, and Warnaco bras and stuff. Not a bad job. And so we're there in El Paso. Yep. Yeah. And so I did all that stuff in El Paso, and then by the time I graduated, I was like, well, I want to do this. I want to give myself the best skills I can possibly have to succeed in the business. So I said, well, I want to go to school, and it was either going to be something like North Texas or something like Texas Tech, and I ended up going to Texas Tech for 4 years and studying with this great teacher, Alan Shin, and did the same thing there, just played, just graduated with too many credits, Got a music education degree so I could fall back on that, if I wanted to be a percussion specialist at a high school or a college. And then when I graduated, I was like, well, I still want to go to North Texas State, because I want to be like Greg Bissonette, and be able to play a coffee house on a Monday night on a hand drum and then go play with a bebop group and then go play with a fusion group and read a film score and then play in a metal band. I wanted to have that versatility, so I said, I'm going to go to school where he went to school. And I went to school there for 2.5 years, got a master's degree in percussion and music education, played in the 1 O'Clock band, played percussion on the 2 O'Clock
that's the band.
Did all that stuff, yeah. And I grew so much in that one semester because they're like, you're reading these charts like 20 pages long on one side, and you got to flip them, and it's like they're all 400 beats a minute.
Yeah.
And now all that training, I'm right back to the garage, playing boom, schmack, boom,
How did that interplay with all that? Just you were immersed in so many notes, so to speak. And country drumming, especially what we're doing, it's got a rock flair to it, but it's about space.
Yeah.
Was that hard for you?
Yeah. I tell the kids, I tell all the students, I say, respect the quarter note, because that's where it's at, finding really where to place that quarter note and make sure that there's an emphasis on that for everything
Syllable.
you do. Yes. And the space. And so, I think I was always kind of into that anyways, because, my default setting when I get up in the morning is I want to listen to, Nigel Olsson play with Elton John. I want to hear Charlie play with the Stones. I want to hear Kenny play with Mellencamp. Those are the drummers that I love that stuff. And so, having gone and studied all this crazy stuff, I'm right back to that square one. But for me, the draw to Nashville was I was playing in a top 40 band in Dallas, and I was kind of reaching my quarter-life crisis. It was like 26, and I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm going to keep playing on Coolio in this Coolio cover band, Janet Jackson and Coolio every week, learning the tunes. And then, I was playing on some jingles and doing some teaching. But I was like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life unless I get out of here. So I was just putting out some feelers. And a friend of mine said, this gal named Trisha Yearwood is looking for a drummer. I was like, oh, really? Cool. How do I do that? How can I get in on this audition? And they're like, well, send your cassette demo.
Yeah.
This is 1997 to such and such a person, and listened to my demo and said, hey, I'm listen to 100 of these things, but I really like your playing. And I have no idea who you are. I've never heard of you, but I really want, on your dime, come to Nashville and we want to hear you play. So I went and auditioned for Trisha. Didn't get the job. It came down to me and another cat. Sean Fichter.
Yeah.
And Sean was, lived in Nashville, was ready to go, great guy, was already connected, got the gig. But they recommended me for an audition for Dina Carter. A week later, I went and auditioned for Dina Carter. Didn't get the gig. Came down to me and Angelo Calora, who we're all buds now,
Right.
And they're like, Angelo lived in town, was ready to go. And so I'm starting to see a pattern here. Those cats recommended me for an audition with Barbara Mandrell. And I went out and did the Barbara Mandrell thing, and it went to a guy that lived in town. So I said, that's it. 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
I gave my band 2 weeks notice. I packed up my little red pickup truck and my cat, Cha-Cha, my one set of drums. Boom, we moved.
Yeah.
Went into the night. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. I had no savings. I just knew I had to get out of Dallas, Texas. So here we are, playing our rock and roll style country drumming.
Yeah.
But back in the day, in like '97, we were still playing 3/4. We were still playing shuffles.
Yeah.
We were still
Train
playing
beats.
train beats.
Yeah.
And I wanted to excel in Nashville, so I just did my homework. I went and I bought all the records. The Merle Haggard's greatest hits and the Loretta Lynn's greatest hits and Gene, all that stuff, and just to do my homework so I could speak the language. Is it a stick and a brush, or is it when
that's the thing, man.
all that stuff.
What is it? The terminology. What's the glossary of terms that we need for this?
Just like if you're going to play jazz, you got to have that kind of blue record, and you got to study Jimmy Cobb, and then work your way up to Tony, and if you're going to study rock and roll drumming, you got to check out Charlie and Keith and all the guys and speak the language. My Nashville family tree to you met this person on the bandstand who turned you on to this gig, who turned you on to this audition, who introduced you to this chick, and I went out with this chick, and she introduced me to this A&R person, and it's like the trickle down thing. And the first thing I did was I had a little demo tape, Rich Redmond, drums and percussion. I was handing that thing out like candy, right? I think I had 400 copies of this thing, and everybody by the end of the week had it. 1 week, the waitresses, whoever.
Saturate the market, man. That way you got all your bases covered.
Yeah, I mean, I was just overzealous about the whole thing, and just shaking a lot of hands, crashing a lot of parties, and sitting in down on Lower Broadway. I mean, we are no overnight successes. I remember, going to see you play at the Courtyard Cafe.
Yeah.
And you were playing with a funk band, and like I played in. A show band with Kurt Allison, our guitar player. We were in his dad's band, the Blues Other Brothers. It was which is like a show band. It's like a Blues Brothers kind of tribute, except everything's all amped up on the tempos. You've probably done some of those things.
Well, Kurt played in the band that you saw me play.
Kurt played with you, so it's this whole web of life and this whole network that starts to to unfold. And I moved to town on a Tuesday. The first thing I did was I looked under music and entertainers in the Yellow Pages, and I started calling musicians, magicians, churches, whatever I can do, because I wanted to get my hands dirty, start drumming. Because I went from being a very established person in Dallas to being way at the bottom of the food chain again and having to, kick and crawl my way up. So I called this guy named Paul Ross. He had this band called the Cadillacs. It's kind of a society band, with the chick singers that have the gloves, of, doing the whole deal. Yeah. And you start, with Satin Doll, and then you work your way up to some Motown hits, and then by the end of the night you're playing, YMCA,
Right.
And so, I called him, and he goes, well, can you read? I said, yep. I said, do you have a tux? Yep. Do you have reliable transportation? Yep. He said, do you have a demo? Yep. He said, well, come down here and give me your demo. I went, I played it for him. He goes, you're hired. There's a gig Saturday night. So I moved to town on Tuesday and had a gig on Saturday night. But, that wasn't going to pay the bills, so I had to keep beating the bushes. Oh, they say it's a 5-year town, right? And, I mean, did you notice that? Because you and I have been in town like 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
It's just, you bleed passion on one gig and shake a hand, and that person tells you another person about your drumming, and then even in today's crazy world with all these social media and everything, it's like, word of mouth is still the best.